Tigers on Sports 56. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Dave Wolo. Look up on the wall. There on the wall. Under the door. Behind the door.
It's another wacky Wednesday. Dennis Phillippe's in the house. Joe Dank's going to join us. We talk the business of sports. There's a lot to chew over there. Jason Munns on the Tigers as they return to action tonight. Is there a thing? Because Jimmy Dykes said this on the air, I think it was last night, in the Kentucky-Clemson game. By the way, how about the way the SEC they won the first 9 games of that challenge, and then it took a mighty effort by Clemson to win 1 game for the ACC. 9 out of 10 to the SEC. But Jimmy Dykes on that broadcast said, it's a real thing, a Maui hangover. So Bryant Dacus, I'm a little worried. Louisiana Tech 7-1. They haven't really beaten anybody. They did lose to Southern their last time out. But they got a French center who's 6'11", top 30 in, I think, scoring, rebounds, and blocks. So he could be a factor tonight against the Tigers, Dane Danger and Musa Cisse. And if you've got this Maui hangover, and we'll also see about Auburn because they play Duke tonight, if there is such a thing as a Maui hangover, that could be a little bit dangerous.
Who was he referring to as a Maui hangover?
He was talking about as he was promoting the Auburn-Duke game.
Oh, I see. Because I was about to say, I know UConn's played since Maui, but I don't know who else has played since Maui.
Well, yeah, UConn beat the heck out of another
UMass,
Division III school or something. He said this in promoting, he goes, we'll see about the Maui hangover for Auburn because they got to play Duke. And the Maui hangover is a real thing.
Huh. Okay.
Now, he's done games at Maui. Maybe, speaking of his own
maybe he's the one
hangover,
with the hangover.
I don't know.
Hopefully not for the Tigers.
Yeah. This is a good test. And then Arkansas State's picked to win CUSA, or Sunbelt. The Tech has picked to win CUSA. So at least he's playing teams that were, even Ohio was picked to win the MAC. So Penny, when he put this thing together, had a plan. So far, so good. The college football playoff reveal yesterday was revealing, so it's pretty obvious. Those that are in control of college football would not let the Big Ten have more schools in than the SEC, right? Just not going to happen. So you can make the argument, is Miami, which did live on the border of disaster several times and finally did blow a 21-point lead to Syracuse in that final game, they're the last team or the first team not in, and Alabama beats them out. Miami with 2 losses, Alabama with 3, losing to Vandy, losing to an Oklahoma team. Very questionable. So it's 4-4, Big Ten SEC, 1-1-1. Notre Dame, the most overrated number 4 team in the country, in history. They lost to Northern Illinois. They haven't beaten anybody. 4? Really? Boise, the Group of 5, and then Big Ten and the Big 12. Big 12 and the ACC only getting 1. And I think you can make – what happens? What happens if Clemson beats SMU? Clemson gets in as the automatic. Does SMU get in over Alabama? Then you got a problem. We'll have to wait and see what happens with all of that. Today, college football signing period begins. It's from today through Friday. This is for high school and junior college. The portal opens up on Monday. So Memphis did flip a couple of guys, but they got flipped on one. How much of a loss, Bryant Dacus, because you're the recruiting guy for us, how much of a loss is the kid, the running back from Iowa? Keep in mind, you got DeWosier and Sutton Smith coming back next year.
Yeah, that's what I've been telling a lot of people is that I hope that means good news for those two guys because you have this guy that entered the transfer portal very early from Iowa. He commits very early, seemingly in terms of when teams kind of start looking for guys to commit out of the portal to Memphis, and then just as quick flips it to Kansas. And so I would hope that means that maybe, Silverfield talking to some of these players that have the opportunity to come back and play college football next year, that maybe both Sutton Smith and Greg DeWosier said, hey, we want to come back. And they went to this Iowa kid and said, hey, look, we want you a part of this team, but you're going to have a lot of competition. And maybe he said, I don't want that. I'll go somewhere where, Kansas is losing their starting running back who's been their guy for the last couple of years. So hopefully it means good news. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But, you definitely, if you can bring those two back, you feel really good about this running back room. And I mean, Dave, some of those young guys in there as well that, Bodiford, who looked good at times this year. And
I forgot about
him. I mean, they've got some good guys in the running back room.
They do. So I don't know that it's a major loss, but
I don't think so.
You would have liked from Iowa.
I mean, it was,
look at Mario Anderson you got from South Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
And you would have been so deep in that department, which you apparently need. Look at all the injuries in that room that occurred this year. Finally, let's talk a little Grizz, and they were awful in the fourth quarter. Now, there was a 44-14 free throw discrepancy. And I listened to Pete, who will be on the show tomorrow with Brevin last night, and they were going, well, this is more Memphis than it is the officials. It seems to me, and this is not just against Memphis, it's against everybody. When Luka breathes on somebody, or somebody breathes on him, it's a foul. He can give you a forearm shiver, and that's acceptable.
Well, no, Dave, I think you said it right. If he breathes on somebody, they call it foul on the person he breathed on.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Well, what was the discrepancy free throw wise? 26-3 in the fourth quarter.
I think it's something like that.
Something crazy like that. Now, when you've got Bain and you've got Morant driving to the hole, that's part of the offensive setup. You got to be kidding me that there's that kind of a discrepancy. That, by the way, I believe was the biggest discrepancy in the fourth quarter since 2015, 9 years ago. I just say this, too. If the Emirates NBA Cup floor is put down, the Grizzlies aren't going to win. What'd they do, win one game? That's it?
In the last 2 years.
Yeah. In the 2 years they've had this, they've won one game.
Yeah.
Crazy. I don't know what that's all about. But that was very interesting last night. And I think Dennis is going to have a little bit more on Morant, who had 31, but he's changed his philosophy. That's coming your way here momentarily as I sit in the Family Leisure Studios. The Ultimate Game Room and fall sale is still going on. There's some other things going on like fire pits. What a perfect season. If you want to go outside, especially like tonight where it gets down to freezing, warm up that way. You'll feel like a mountain man if you do that tonight. You'll feel very macho if you go out there with a fire pit tonight. I would check that out. And don't forget, they are trying to get rid of theater seating, maybe some massage chairs too, because they're overstocked. They want to bring new stuff in. All you've got to do is go and enjoy the savings. If you head to I-40 and Whidden Road, where all these sales continue at Family Leisure.
It's time for Dennis on Dave. Dennis on Dave. Dennis on Dave. Welcome to Dennis on Dave.
Yes, he said it perfectly. Dennis on Dave. Good morning. Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I did. I had a great Thanksgiving. The whole thing was very mellow. Of course, last week, what a terrible week for us to not be on. I mean, you're out there getting a tan in Hawaii, and when going into the weekend last week,
I did not find it to be a terrible thing, but just for the record,
it sucked for us.
Yeah,
because going into the weekend last weekend, all anybody could talk about is how many 2-loss teams were going to get into the playoffs,
right?
And then by the end of Saturday, they all had 3 losses. I mean, it was a bloodbath.
Yeah.
And there was so much stuff happened last week that it would have been fun to talk about. But this week, last night, Ja Morant did get soundly booed because he had a breakaway and he chose to just do an easy two-handed dunk. His third dunk of the season. Because Ja, as he said last night, is not looking to dunk. He has decided, thank God, finally, somebody has been able to talk sense into Ja Morant.
You know what happened? Seriously. When he got hurt and there was no call in that L.A. game trying to dunk, that's when he made that decision.
But it's a decision that's long overdue.
I'm with you.
Because we were like, great, I love seeing Ja do something incredible, and then not see him play for 3 weeks.
Right.
Because that's how. But he's got his head on straight. It seems like, they didn't have a great fourth. They had a terrible fourth quarter. But I like the idea that Ja is not going to just try to get on top plays. He's going to try to win basketball games, and that's the most important thing. Also, and I didn't even know this was a thing, that LeBron James is rethinking his plan to play in 82 games this year.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I admire him for doing that, and it goes full cycle. Because if you'll recall, when he was with Cleveland, they had their big three. None of the three came. It was around Christmas time. So many Grizzlies fans had given family members or friends tickets to this game to see LeBron in his prime. Nobody showed up. They actually changed the rule after that.
And I get that. But I get that the idea that if you're going to drop as much money as you're going to drop to go see an NBA game, to see the Lakers, you want to see LeBron James. But do you want to see LeBron James suck? Because that's what he's been doing for the last week and a half. He's been playing terribly because he's 40 years old and he's trying to play 82 games. That's just stupid. He used to be he was like the first load management guy of his own. He was the first guy to go, I'm going to play maybe 55. You know, that'll keep me healthy for the entire season. I don't know what he was thinking at 40 years old, thinking, yep, I think I can play 82 NBA games, and then will I be ready for the playoffs?
Well, the question is this. Is it because he's trying to play 82 games, or is it because, like with everybody else, Father Time catches up with you?
It's a combination of the two. You can't be 40 and play 82 games. That's just stupid because he has sucked lately, and it's painful to watch LeBron James suck.
It's mainly his outside shooting.
Now, speaking of sucking, of course, you know, the Chicago Bears did finally fire their coach. Was it worth even learning how to pronounce Eberflus or whatever it was? We knew he was going to get canned, and we were communicating back and forth. Dave and I were communicating back and forth while he was in Hawaii because we had this bet going that I said weeks ago that the Bears would lose to the Vikings, the Packers, and the Lions.
If you recall, you said the Bears would not win a divisional game this year.
You can go back to the tape. I said they would not win any of those 3 games. That's what I said.
No, you said division games, and that means back and forth. I will, under protest, buy you lunch, which was what the bet was, only because I like you and I'm going to buy you lunch for that reason. You did not win the bet.
I feel like
the bet was they wouldn't win a divisional game, and I still contend
I don't think that's
they will win a divisional game. They will beat one of those 3 teams in the return games.
Well,
why would you have just pick those 3 games?
Because that was the stretch that I was talking about in that particular report. I was talking about those 3 games coming up and that they weren't going to win any of those 3 games. And you said, let's have a lunch bet, and I jumped on it. And you can go back. You can watch it. That's actually the only segment I've ever listened to. We'll go back into the
archives. You said divisional games.
No, we'll have to do the research and find out. Okay. Now, first, I've got to say this because it seems like I jump on the Bears a lot. I really like the Bears, and I was a huge fan of the 85 Bears. I landed in Memphis in February of 85, and I didn't want to go on the road doing stand-up because I didn't want to be away from my new girlfriend, so I had to get a job. I got a job at a deli on Highland, and the deal was if you closed, you could drink all the draft beer you wanted to drink. So I closed a lot, and I watched a lot of the 85 Bears.
That was the best.
I loved that team.
I think either that defense or the very next year, the 86 Giants, one of those two are the greatest defenses I've ever watched.
Well, it was one of the strangest eras, and like Dacus is too young to remember this, but it was so weird because going into that season in 85, everyone knew the Bears were going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, going into the season.
Right.
And the next year, everybody knew the Giants were going to win the Super Bowl going into the season. And I honestly believe Walter Payton is the greatest player in the history of the NFL.
There you go.
I'm a huge fan of Walter Payton.
Although I'm not sure he's the greatest running back in the history of the Chicago Bears, actually. Because Gale Sayers was the prettiest running back, the most elusive, just genius with eyesight.
And if he'd been able to stay healthy, maybe you could say that.
He
but
only really had 3 years.
Peyton had an incredible work ethic. He was a great humanitarian, and he liked to hit people. That's what I enjoyed about Walter Payton. Because, like, Dickerson hated being hit.
Right.
He danced out of bounds every time somebody came near him.
And he was so much
Payton,
bigger than Walter. Walter was a little mighty mouse.
But he liked hitting people. He liked it a lot. Now, as far as they did, of course, fire their coach, Eberflus. The Bears GM, Ryan Poles, said that the Bears head coaching job is, and I'm quoting here, the most coveted job in the NFL.
Well,
the head coaching job of the Bears, the cheapest organization that isn't the Bengals.
I think what he's trying to say is with Caleb Williams.
They got a great rookie quarterback, and they got a lot of cap room.
They got a cap room, and they got a very good defense. The one thing, Eberflus deserved to be fired for that debacle at the end of the game, and saying they played it right. Now, he may have been protecting his quarterback when he made that comment, but he had to go. He absolutely, that's the worst management at the end of a game that I've ever seen at any level.
No.
Let alone this, the NFL.
The whole thing was horrible.
But I think it's because of personnel and cap space that the Bears job would be a coveted job. But working for the Hallis/McCaskies,
they're so cheap. They're so unbelievably cheap. They just won't spend any money. And of course, Poles said that he would conduct an exhaustive, detailed, and organized search for a new head coach. Something apparently the Bears have never done before. The last time you had a coach that didn't suck was Lovey. Lovey Smith and Lovey in his tenure with the Bears was 20 games over 500. He would 3 playoff appearances and a Super Bowl with Rex Grossman. That is quality coaching to get to a Super Bowl with Rex Grossman.
Because that defense was very good.
Their last 4 head coaches are 40 games under 500. Their last 4 head coaches are 40 games under 500.
See, if you'd asked me that, I would not have believed it.
And it's true. The coach before last was 3 games over 500 in his 2 seasons, but the others, they combined for a total of being roughly 40 games under 500, the last 4 coaches. They've been awful.
Let me ask you this. Would you hire Eberflus as your DC if you were a head coach somewhere?
If I was a head coach at a mid-major, sure.
No.
In the NFL, absolutely not. I wouldn't touch that guy. Nobody else will either. No, nobody's going to touch that guy. And meanwhile, Jameis Winston, who is quarterbacking for the Browns and actually used paradigm shift properly at a press conference last week. I was very impressed. He broke a record for the most yards thrown by a quarterback in a game in which he also threw 2 pick sixes.
Right.
You know whose record he broke?
Rex Grossman?
Close. Kyle Orton of the Chicago Bears.
The great thing that he said there was, did you hear him go something along the effects of, Lord, please protect me from pick sixes?
And plus, he had one of the funniest moments.
Funny.
Last week, he had one of the funniest moments because he was trying to get the other team to jump, and eventually he literally screamed at them, "Jump offside!"
I saw that, yeah.
Well, there were some other words in there that I can't use, but it was great. And then another quarterback made fun of him this weekend by doing the same thing. So that was a lot of fun. Deion Sanders. He ducked out on senior day. He was going to have his picture taken with his 2 kids, the 2 kids, Shadur and Shiloh. But he ducked out because his ex-wife was walking up, and he hates her guts. They have had this huge feud for years since they split up. She is the mother of his youngest 3 children. But she was making a beeline to get a picture taken with his 2 sons, and he bolted out of senior day to keep having his picture taken. And by the way, Deion Sanders has a daughter named DeAndrea. Why didn't he just name one of his sons Deion? Why hang DeAndrea on a girl? Why not just
Is she the oldest?
I don't know where she fits in this.
Gotta be.
And we were talking about this briefly before we went on the air, but the golden at bat is being talked about again. And you have not heard about this?
No.
The idea here is that a Major League Baseball team can use their best batter once in a game, no matter where they are in the rotation. They could just decide this is the situation where we need our Ohtani. This is where we need him at the plate right now. And one time in a game, they will be able to use the golden at-bat. Unbelievably stupid.
That would be the worst rule in the history of baseball.
I don't even like the DH.
Right, I don't either.
Well, we're National League guys.
Right.
I hated the DH. Hated when it came into the NL. Still hate it.
This is not actually going to ever happen.
The owners were seriously talking about it. They were. They're.
The owners are seriously.
They
idiots.
just want. Obviously, Major League Baseball just wants people to have a reason to talk about Major League Baseball.
That's exactly right. The winter meetings are coming up. There's a way to get a little bit of attention away from football and basketball.
All right, and the word of the day is fangxiety. Have you heard this, Bryant? Fangxiety. It's fangxiety. It's F-A-N, anxiety. Fangxiety.
Oh.
It is the anxiousness, the stress, the anxiety of before and during a game you really care about.
If you're a fan.
We all have this
that's
experience.
true. Yes.
Watching a Tigers game, watching a Grizzlies game.
Me watching a Cubs game. Oh, my gosh.
But, well, I would say me watching a Saints game, but I just automatically assume the Saints are going to lose, so I don't get stressed out about them anymore. But there was advice in this piece that I was reading about the ways to deal with your fangxiety. One was deep breathing, focus on the positive, taking breaks, and limiting caffeine, sugar, and alcohol. There were more, but that's where I stopped reading.
Wow.
As soon as I said the only way to deal with your anxiety is to avoid alcohol, I realized this person does not have my best interest at heart.
Do you ever I've done this. Like, I'm watching in a game, and every time I turn on, something bad happens.
Oh, yeah.
And I
Everybody
go,
has that
okay,
experience.
I'm not going to watch. I'm not going to watch. I'll wait till this at bat is over. I'll go watch. I'm serious. I'll watch
I know.
something else because I feel like I'm the jinx.
Yep.
Everybody
Is
does.
that part of anxiety?
Yep.
Yeah, it is. Everybody. It's like where if you're sitting in one place and the team's
juju.
doing well and you move and they start sucking, you move back
it
to
was
where
your
you were
fault.
sitting.
Right,
No
yeah.
matter
It was
how
your
awful
fault.
the
Yep.
seat is, you could be looking halfway at the TV.
I buy anxiety. I do.
And finally, Tiger Woods said that he has, quote, a long way to go before he's ready to play on the tour again, which
that.
is true. Because what has to happen is he has to die, be reincarnated, then age enough to be good enough to play golf again. Because Tiger Woods is never going to be good enough to play on the PGA Tour again in this lifetime.
How about seniors? Can we say senior tour
Champions
maybe?
Tours, the
Champion
Champions
tour?
He's not. No, that's not the point. The point is he's never going to be meaningful on the PGA Tour again.
Maybe we look
Not
at
this
Charlie
lifetime.
Woods. Maybe that's our next hope.
That is our next hope. That literally is our next hope.
Yeah. Well, he just had another back surgery, so it's too bad. Because we all want Tiger to do great. I mean, I do.
I did.
I think.
I've lost interest, long since lost interest in it. I used to really, really want him to be able to come back.
Well, when he won Augusta that last time, oh my gosh, that was.
And we all thought, okay,
He's back.
And then
But
turns out,
it's his back that
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
not going to allow him to be back. As always, Dennis, thank you much. We will see you next Wednesday. Dennis is brought to you in part by Gator Patrol. That's the new Grind City offering. That's Grind City Brewing Company. That was a dream of a father and a son about 10, 15 years ago, and it has become a reality. It is such a cool place, just north of downtown, where you see the skyline, you see the bridges. They got this beautiful modern building where there's all the product, and then they have concerts there. It's a great outdoor venue. It really is. And now they got this new thing, because you know all about the beers. They've got this thing called Gator Patrol. This is a tangerine cream sour. So picture in your head sweet, tart, refreshing, with a little balance, subtle, of cream. Oh, yeah. I've tried it. You'll like it. Go check it out. It's perfect for the holidays. It's the newest thing from Grind City. It's Gator Patrol, the Tangerine Cream Sour. We take a break. Somewhere between here and somewhere in Wisconsin is our business expert. That is Joe Dank, and he comes your way next.
Sports 56 Happy Hour from 11 to 1 every weekday on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Want to make this the most unforgettable Christmas that Jazz has done?
PayPal debit card now earns you 5% cash back in the monthly category of your choosing. Groceries, restaurants, health, beauty, gas, and apparel on up to $1,000 of monthly purchases. I'm using my PayPal debit card to earn 5% cash back on apparel. With my travel schedule, I'm buying clothes online all the time. Sign up for the PayPal debit card through the new app.
Terms apply. See PayPal app. This card is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A., pursuant to license by MasterCard International, Inc.
What a great time of year. Football, basketball, baseball, golf, and home sales. Home sales? This is Sheldon Rosengard from Marks Bensdorf Realtors. Why did I throw in home sales at this time of year? Because I have sold homes on the day before Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, and New Year's Day. Whether it's someone transferring in through a relocation network or someone just starting their home search, homes sell all year long, just like my golf game being banned all year long. I may be called Mr. Three-Putt, but at least I'm consistent. If you or someone you know is thinking of selling, make sure and talk to 2 to 3 real estate brokers, but make sure I'm one of them. Find out how my highly successful strategic marketing program can get the winning score you need. Call me and find out why people often say when you want the job done, call Shell Done. 483-0546 or MemphisRelocate.com. Go for that goal and call me. Shell Done at 483-0546 or MemphisRelocate.com.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Wolo.
All we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio
We are about to get down to business. Joe Dank's going to join us. He's brought to you by Southern Security. Are you getting the lowest possible rate on your mortgage? At Southern Security, they offer low rates, flexible terms, no PMI, and the best, I promise you, of unbeatable service. You can refinance your current mortgage with the Mid-South's best mortgage lender. For more info, visit online, southernsecurity.org, or you can actually talk to a human being, my favorite thing, at 901-452-7900. Southern Security is an equal housing lender, proud supporters of the Tigers and 901 Women. Southern Security, your home team credit union, federally insured by NCUA. Let's hook up with our friend on the road. That is Joe Dank. Good morning. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving.
I did, David, and I know you did too in Maui. But
Yeah.
it's good to be back. It's good to be with you this morning.
Yeah, Maui was quite a bit of fun. I can't lie about that. All right, let's get down to it. Turkey Day. During the holiday, lots of football, college and pro. And I'm imagining with everybody at home, and it was actually a pretty cold stretch everywhere, except Maui, that the TV ratings had to be pretty healthy.
Always one of the biggest days, Thanksgiving Day. Let's start, first of all, with the game of local interest here. Our Memphis game was on, the Tigers played Tulane on Thursday night. That was an ESPN game. It was the only college football game on at the time.
Right.
And the game did not get to 1 million viewers. It did 655,000 viewers. That was a 0.3 household rating. Now, if you recall, that Thursday night time period has traditionally been the time for the Egg Bowl.
Right.
And the Memphis-Tulane game being played this year delivered 71% less viewers than last year's Egg Bowl. That had 2.3 million viewers.
Wow.
So, whatever the reasoning about moving that Egg Bowl game to Friday, ESPN may likely rethink that because they lost more than 2/3 of the audience by not having that game.
That is really crazy. That's disheartening. That just goes to show you the power of the SEC. And even if you've got a pretty attractive setup with a group of four, the best group of four, I think, but you could make the argument about Mountain West. But the team that was picked to win to the team that was supposed to win as time went on, and that only drew that minimal amount of people, not even 1,675,000 or whatever it was. That's sad. That's incredible. It just goes to show you if it's not SEC or Big Ten, it doesn't seem to register.
Well, and that is certainly one way to look at it. It's a competitive evening. Obviously, you're opposite NFL competition. Look, you're coming out of a Cowboys game that did 38.5 million viewers in the afternoon, and then the Packers-Dolphins game did just over 24 million viewers. So somehow people had to get off of their NFL fix and find this particular college game. Now, one interesting point on the Memphis-Tulane game, you may recall, Dave, that last season the teams met on a Friday night on ESPN, and that was a night where opposite other significant football competition, meaning no NFL for sure, the Memphis-Tulane game a year ago on a Friday night on ESPN did 1.7 million viewers.
Wow. So that's three times the amount.
Exactly.
So
right.
It's up against NFL competition. And even though I agree with you that the Egg Bowl in the year before did do a decent number at 2.3 million, it's nothing like the 24 million that the NFL got.
Exactly. So, that is we always talk about the bulletproof nature of the NFL, and certainly Thanksgiving Day is traditionally, and of course the Lions and Cowboys, those games have been locked forever, and then NBC has come in now with the Thursday night game as well. One other note from the football holiday was the Black Friday game on Amazon. This was year 2. Raiders-Chiefs this time out, 13.5 million, a 41% increase over the Dolphins-Jets last year. So looks like Black Friday makes some sense.
Does that tell you that more people are now getting accustomed to streaming games, and that the Netflixes and the Amazons of the world now are going to make even greater inroads?
Yeah, no question about it. It's here, and it's here to stay. We'll see that Christmas Day doubleheader coming up on Netflix. That will be interesting as well to see what kind of audience that game draws. Those two games draw. But, the audience and its sophistication and its adoption of the different types of distribution platforms just simply continues to grow. And, unlike that fight, there were no reports of any kind of technical difficulties with the Amazon feed on Black Friday, but a 41% increase there. So that's a big deal.
All right.
And so I think that's here to stay.
This is all prognostication. What kind of number? I don't think it would be fair to say you'd get NFL type of numbers, but what kind of numbers do you think the title games this year will get? Because you've got some great ones, right? Big Ten, SEC, those are great title games. And then take it a step further. What kind of numbers do you think we will see in these first-round playoff games?
All right, so the top-rated college football telecasts this year have been in that somewhere between 10 and 12 million viewer range, okay? And those were some of the best matchups of the year in the same type of time periods that these games will be played this coming weekend. So I would suggest that we'll see above that. I would also point out that in most cases, there is more than one conference championship game going on at a time. I'm just trying to think quickly off the top of my head about the competitive scheduling of these games, and that matters so much too. I mean, that's where all of a sudden these NFL games on Thanksgiving are so huge, because nothing overlaps. It's the only game on at that time.
Right.
That matters. So look, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. The Southeast Conference game, that's going to be Georgia and Texas. That's going to be the 3:00 our time in the afternoon. That's going to be limited competition there. Do you get to 15 million with something like that? And maybe that's the number, plus or minus small change. So, you might see something in that 15 million range for something like that. You get to the finals and the playoffs, and then you're going to be, trying to get past the 20 million viewer mark.
All right, this is always an interesting time in college football, because you got signing period just began, but it's also coaching carousel time already. Buyout money is way up there. Last year, it exceeded $100 million in coaches' buyouts. Where do we stand right now as we begin this crazy period?
Well, as you say, we're in the initial phases. We're up to $36 million in buyout fees. These are the fees being paid by the colleges to coaches who they have fired. And so The biggest number on the board right now is when West Virginia relieved Neil Brown, they owe him $9.7 million. Purdue fired their coach Ryan Walters after just 2 seasons and owe him just under $9.5 million. It's also interesting to note, Dave, that the list of coaches dismissed include 4 from the American Conference, and the most notable, perhaps, Tom Herman is going to get a $4.18 million buyout from Florida Atlantic.
They hired a 33-year-old kid, by the way, to be their new coach.
Yep. Yeah, interesting stuff, right?
Yeah.
But East Carolina, Charlotte, and Rice are also open as well. So,
wow.
It's
so
always
Charlotte
interesting.
I didn't even know that. Charlotte fired
right.
Biff Poggi?
He did, yes, sir.
Wow, so they fired the hedge fund dude.
And Biff is walking away with $1.3 million in his buyout. One might argue he needs that less than just about anybody, right?
I would agree. That ain't much. That's like a donut.
For him. That's
him.
right.
Yeah, that's crazy. Last year it went over $100 million, probably because the Jimbo buyout was in the 70s. I don't know if there's anybody like that. Napier and Norvell would have been big buyouts. I know Mike would have been $64 million. That's not happening. We probably won't get to $100 million this year, will we?
Yeah, probably not. And look, we would have never gotten there last year either, because as you said, it was last year's total was about $118 million, but $76 million of it was Jimbo Fisher from Texas A&M. Ted Napier got it. His buyout was more than $26 million. So Napier and Norvell had the biggest, and they're not going anywhere.
No. Napier definitely has saved his job. All right. Last thing, and that has to do with schools now gearing up. I don't know if there's any set rules yet. This is also still so new and so complicated. But I think next year are going to begin this revenue share where 22% of the gross revenues of media rights, I think some ticket money, I'm not 100% certain what the formula is, 22% of those revenues will go to student athletes. I don't think it's just football players. Student athletes, I'm not sure how they're doing it, but schools are gearing up for this to happen. What do you see with all of that?
Well, again, this is something that's going to transform collegiate sports as we know it. This is all the result of the so-called House settlement. That was the NCAA settlement on antitrust issues. Now, there is a proposal in place, and it's working to be finalized. It's expected to be finalized in April. So if it does, it will go into effect for fall of 25, and that all of a sudden, as you say, means that all athletes at all schools who elect to participate are entitled to participate in the share of the revenues. And so here's something, you and I have been around a little while watching sports. Did you ever think that a college athletic department would create a sub-department, and the tasks of that sub-department would be the following: salary cap management, negotiations, scouting, and managing player payments?
No. And when you say scouting, it would be scouring the portal, right?
Exactly. And that's exactly what is there's a, and of all places, Boise State is the place where this department has been put in place. It's called Bronco Pro.
Wow. They don't hide anything about it. Bronco Pro. I didn't realize that. So here's what I want to know. Seriously. I remember when Ed Scott became the athletic director of the University of Memphis, in his opening press conference, which was a classic, one of the greats I've ever seen, he made the comment that we are opting in, that we are going to do this revenue share. Well, I don't know if everybody in the American is going to do the revenue share. I remember Tim Pernetti talking a little bit about how the league has to sort of be uniform. Whose decision? I don't know if you know the answer to this, because I'm not certain there is one. It's still the wild, wild west out there. Who makes that call? Is it the school's call that says we want to participate in this deal, or is it the league that wants to be uniform?
Well, I think eventually, I think the schools are the league to begin with, but they have to come to some agreement. And, it is hard to envision a league where half the schools are playing revenue share and paying athletes at those levels, and the other half of the members of the league might not be. So, these are things that need to be worked out. And that's kind of the point right now. You look at the pressures on both coaches and administrators in college athletic departments as we went into this year, with the impact of the new media deals, the impact of the new revenue, and the impact of the realignment all occurring this year, the continuation of the transfer portal and NIL, and next year we add something like revenue sharing on. And so this is just such we've all been involved where you almost do a reinvention of your business, but rarely do you do it 3 or 4 years in a row.
Well, yeah,
We're looking at one of these huge issues again.
And here's the crazy thing. Remember, this is a number of 22%. That was absolutely stated in all of that. And that 22% looks a lot different if you're getting $100 million in revenue from a television contract like the SEC and the Big Ten schools are, or if and the American has at this moment the best Group of 5 TV package, and it comes in at about $10 million. So you're talking about $22 million for one school, $2.2 million for Memphis, and then the other aspect is that shared amongst all athletes? Certainly the women with Title IX are going to demand their fair share. So I don't even know where all the money gets distributed. All of this is still one big question mark.
Well, and keep in mind one thing. 22% of something is something, and what matters most is, do you have that after you pull that out?
Do you have the 2.2 to give? Right, I get it.
Whether it's 2.2 or 22 million, do you have it? Because, in the case of the American schools, if you designate 22% of the take, well, that's the current take. It's already been being used for other things now.
Right.
So the real question is, if you're going to come up with 22%, you're going to have to go raise additional revenue sources to come up with that extra money, whether it's $2 million or $20 million or $200 million for that matter.
I don't think the group
those are the challenges.
The group before, or the Power Four, don't have to worry about this. It's the others that are going to. And I think it's pretty clear in the American that Memphis, USF, Tulane, they're all in on this stuff. I don't know if the other schools are. And how will that work for a league if they don't all opt into this? It's really interesting, and we'll keep our eye on it. As always, you be safe. We'll talk with you in studio next week. Again, happy holidays.
Thank you, Dave.
That is Joe Dank, our man on the business of sports. We take a break. When we come back, the commercial appeal beat writer when it comes to Memphis basketball is Jason Munz, and he's right around the corner.
Broadcasting from the Family Business Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This holiday season, give the gift of Goulds with a Goulds gift card for someone you love. Relaxation, perfectly gifted, is right for everyone. The gift of tranquility with a Gold Spa gift card is perfect for anyone who deserves a moment to unwind, refresh, and rejuvenate. Because relaxation is the greatest gift of all. Happy holidays from Goulds. Gold Spa, locally owned and operated since 1932.
Let me guess, you're going to recommend that everyone get their holiday meal from Central Barbecue.
No, although it's a great idea, get everybody some fantastic Central Barbecue and not have to do any of the work, but that is not what this spot is about.
It's not?
No, this is about another way Central Barbecue can save you time and trouble.
Ah, Central Barbecue gift cards.
That's right. You don't have to fight the holiday gift shoppers when you can just go online and order up a handful of Central Barbecue gift cards.
No one has ever turned up their nose to getting the best barbecue in Memphis.
In the world.
In the world for free.
Simple, smooth, and every sip as easy as the last. Tito's handmade vodka tastes just as good with tap water as it does your favorite mix. Back in the day, Tito distilled, hand bottled, taste tested, sent out to a few friends, and taste tested again to give you the finest juice around. No frills, no flavors, no fancy labels, just the good stuff, just Tito's. For recipes, videos, and more, visit Tito'sVodka.com. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume, 80 proof, crafted and savored responsibly.
Munzie on Memphis basketball right around the corner. It's brought to you by Dinstall's. Make the holidays sweet this year. You know, they've always got ideas for you. You can walk into the store. A lot of times they got samples of all the traditional sweets, and then they will give you, I promise, the greatest ideas for holiday gifts. They always got new things, like you can do a logo in a bar of chocolate. There's a million different ways that you can go, and they've been doing this thing for about 130 years. That's how long Dinstall's has been making the holidays sweet around Memphis. They are a taste of Memphis, and it's so easy. You can go to Laurelwood, my neck of the woods, in the suburbs, Germantown and Collierville. You've got the really cute little store downtown on Main Street, and then there's where they make the candy on Pleasant View. You can't beat it. It's the taste of Memphis that everyone wants. It's the sweetness of Dinstall's. Jason Munz joins us now after his journey from Maui. You might want to put him on because my thing is stuck on drop, so let's not go there. Jason Munz does join us now. Good morning, Munzie. I would have to say the trip to Maui was a smashing success for the Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the conversation before even the trip to San Francisco was like, what would constitute success in those 4 games? The game against San Francisco and then the 3 games in Maui. And I think a lot of people would have undeniably agreed that if you said before that Memphis was going to go 3-1 and they were going to play who they played, UConn, Michigan State, and Auburn, and the loss was going to be to Auburn, that everybody would have grabbed that and run with it.
Oh, yeah.
All the way to the bank.
I honestly felt like, for me, success would have been 2-2, where you'd beaten San Francisco, which is a good team, by the way, and then won probably the Colorado game, which, if it had gone as planned, as exceeded, then you would have lost to UConn and played Colorado. Now, none of that stuff worked out the way it was supposed to. But the fact is, I thought this trip, 2-2, you're pretty darn good, and you're flirting with being in the top 25. 3-1, and now 15 or 16 in the country, depending on the poll. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, and you know, the first net results were released this week, and Memphis is 31. They started, so that's where they start this season. Last season, I looked this up, Memphis started the season at 71 in the net.
Wow.
Now they finished at 72. They got as high as 26 in the net. Obviously, the being 15-2 and beating some of the teams that they beat and the way they beat them, that gets you up there. And then, of course, what happened after that, it dropped them back down into the 70s. But the point is, like, if they're starting 40 spots better this season than they did last year, I don't know. You like your chances.
Well, the bad thing is, if you go by that net at 31, you're an 8 seed. If you go by 16, you're a 4 seed. I mean, that's quite a difference in your chances.
Yeah. Well, you know, the good thing for Memphis is that they do still that they're pretty few and far between from now on. Their opportunities to improve the net, but but there are still opportunities. Clemson beats number 4 Kentucky last night, so that's gonna be a quad 1 opportunity.
Look what Ole Miss did to Louisville. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Just dismantled Louisville on Louisville's home floor.
That's what I was going to say, on the road, which is they will be there when they meet Memphis, which is obviously helpful. But that's going to be 2 ranked teams going at one another, and we already see how good Ole Miss is. And
then Mississippi State's a top 25 team, or they were at some point. I think they still are. And then Virginia's not the Virginia of old. They're going through a transition period, but that's on the road, and you got to think that. Virginia, like, that's not going to be a game where if you drop it, it's going to significantly ding you. The games that could ding you are pretty much every game in the American. So this season, so it's imperative that they continue to do good work with the opportunities that they have ahead of them with Clemson and those others. But it is also as important, if not more important, that they do not, stub their toe against a team nothing against Louisiana Tech, but you got to win games like tonight, and you got to win games like Arkansas State on Sunday to make sure that your net and your other rankings stay in good standing.
Well, the good news on that, honestly, is that the way Penny planned this, Ohio picked to win the MAC, even though they've struggled. San Francisco, by the way, keeps on winning. That's a good thing, and they were picked third or fourth in their league, which is a good league, the West Coast Conference. And then you've got Louisiana
Missouri.
Tech picked to. Oh, how about Missouri? 7-1 now.
They were down 15 at half last night to Cal.
I know.
And within 10 minutes to the second half, they were winning by like 5 or 6. Like they stormed back, and that was a very good thing for Memphis because that's a team that they're top 50 in the net right now. So that Memphis needs Missouri to stay there.
Oh yeah, and the fact that the Memphis game is the only one they've lost so far. That's a real positive for sure. I hope they keep on winning. But La Tech tonight picked to win the CUSA League, and then on Sunday, Arkansas State picked to win the Sun Belt. So you're playing teams that are quality teams from these when you're playing the mid majors, and you've already got so many like the UConn and the Michigan State. I expect UConn's going to get better from here on out.
Yeah, they get a chance tonight to. I mean, they're not going to have Alex Caravan. He's out tonight, but they're hosting Baylor. They're favored in that game slightly, but UConn is favored in the game tonight against Baylor. And so, like if you're Memphis, you're rooting for every game on the schedule, every team on your schedule. You're rooting for them to continue winning. UNLV, San Francisco, Michigan State. Like you want the best for those teams.
Yeah.
I will say. You're talking about seeding and those sorts of things. From a projection standpoint, KenPom has Memphis the rest of the schedule as a favorite in every single game except for Clemson.
Wow.
And if that holds true, you've got these bracketologists and things that are putting out their projections. Like, I get it. It's December. It's even early December. I completely understand it, and it's a tricky thing. Like it, in the grand scheme of things, it does not matter what these. It's like it's 4 months away from when it actually matters, but or 3 months away, whatever it is. But given the projections, if Memphis does what it is supposed to do, you've got bracketologists sitting here today saying Memphis could be as high as a 2 seed.
Wow.
Bracket guy Dave is what he goes by. His name's Dave Ahman, and he has been
what a great first name. I love that.
Yeah. He's been one of the more accurate bracketologists that does it over the last decade or so. He's got Memphis as a 2 seed. Joe Lunardi at ESPN has them as a 4 seed in his latest bracketology. So if they just do what they're supposed to do and don't stub their toe too much, like 31 in the net today, but projection-wise, the expectation is that is going to improve.
Well, I personally, I look at Clemson, Virginia. That's one trip, even though they'll be back home and then go out again. If you split that, because those are 2 road games, and honestly, Ole Miss and Mississippi State are both really good teams. Because you're home, you'd want to sweep them. If you went 3-1 in those, that'd be fantastic. I could live with 2-2. Sort of the same way I felt about this trip to San Francisco and Maui. I still think you're in really good position there, provided you win almost every one of your conference games and win the tournament. I think your seeding will be good.
Yeah, you could probably afford 2 losses at most in this conference the way it is right now. I mean, you've got UAB, the preseason pick, to win the league.
Well, those. In my opinion, that's a popularity contest, and those coaches don't like Penny for whatever reason. I don't know, but
they should they should be much better than they are, and they're just not.
Well, they've
UAB
lost 5 games now. I watched them lose to Middle Tennessee the other night. They
did too.
They kept bombing threes that weren't open threes. They had no structure whatsoever. They got this guy Lindeberg inside, who we know is the preseason player of the year. They don't even go to him.
And he is. I mean, like, he's legit. Like,
He's
everybody here knows. Everybody here knows he's legit, and it's not like he's having a down year. He's doing what he does, but the people around him are not. And but it's not just UAB that's been bad. Like, Tulane is terrible. I mean, Wichita State and North Texas have been other than Memphis, have been the 2 best teams, and even their resumes aren't like.
Well, North Texas beat Minnesota. That's their big win. But then they lost to somebody that's not very good. And I don't recall who that is off the top of my head. And then, Wichita State started off really good, but I'm not sure they got a major W on the resume.
No, they had a chance against Florida, but they lost by 30. So that kind of gives you an idea of where they are.
Well, last thing, what are the odds? Because we've talked about this on the show before. You identified a guy at Tennessee and a guy at Illinois. What are the odds that Memphis can pick up a transfer? And keep in mind, we've learned while we were out in Maui that, and this is why Tyreek Smith has taken the year off, if you are a transfer, and I don't know how Naquan Tomlin did it last year. He must not have practiced with the team, or maybe because he graduated. I'm not 100% certain. But the rule is you can't have played in the game nor practiced with the team in order to be eligible for a midseason transfer.
Yeah, if you practiced with the team after the fall semester began, that triggers your transfer status.
And Tomlin must not have done that last year, huh?
If you recall, he was dealing with an ankle issue that had stemmed from an incident at a bar, which was part of the reason why he didn't, why they didn't welcome him back. He didn't play for them. He did not practice with them, and so therefore he was eligible. And yes, he had also graduated. So I think that also helped. As far as the odds, I think they're very slim at this point. Like, it's December 4th. I know that Naquan Tomlin, his first game wasn't until December 23rd against Vanderbilt. So there's still, if you think about it, there's time, I guess. You have to wait for fall semester grades to post and be finalized and all that stuff. So there's still a little bit of time. But I just find it difficult. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm not definitely saying it's not going to happen. But I just think that the window is beginning to close, is at least beginning to close on Memphis getting a transfer. I don't know, maybe they uncover some junior college situation or a Division II situation that we don't know about, but to me, the bottom line is, unless Penny Hardaway has a miracle up his sleeve, even if he is able to add someone to this roster that is eligible to play this season, it's not going to be a Naquan Tomlin. It's definitely not going to be a Naquan Tomlin type guy.
Right.
And it may not even be someone who plays until February, because they got to get caught up. They got to. If they haven't been practicing and playing where they are now, can you imagine how long it's going to take them to get ramped up?
Even Penny, in his conversations, has tempered the fact that he might be able to get somebody. Jason, as always, we appreciate it. We will see you tonight on our perch at FedEx Forum as the Tigers get ready to take on La Tech.
I look forward to it,
Me
Wolo.
too.
Thanks.
Thank you much. That's Jason Munz, the Commercial Appeal beat writer. That'll do it for us today. Johnny Radio is right around the corner. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a great day, everybody.
Top Gun is the largest indoor range in the Mid-South, but size isn't their only difference. Top Gun has the best instructors with over 300 years combined experience and classes all the way from first shot to master marksmanship. Plus, Top Gun is affordable. Gold membership is just